Hi guys, this video is about yoga and how to avoid injuries when you do yoga. My name is Maryke. I'm the physiotherapist from sportsinjuryphysio.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment for your injuries. Have a look at the description of this video for a link to my website. Okay, so I'm going to aim to give you 3 major tips that should help you stay injury free from yoga. But first of all, we all know that yoga can be good for you. There's loads of evidence to show that it can help with pain management of different conditions like back pain, for instance. It can help with mental health. It can help your flexibility. It can also help to build your strength. But people do still get injured, and sometimes they find that it makes their back pain worse. So why is that? Well, point number 1 is don't force your body into positions that's really uncomfortable. Yoga started in India, and people in that area of the world are really flexible. So yoga poses are quite extreme, some of them, and you may not actually be able to achieve those poses just because of your genetics. So we scale flexibility on a scale of 1 to 9, where if you're on the 9, you're hypermobile, nearly too mobile or flexible, whereas if you're towards a 1, you're really on the inflexible spectrum. And all of us are somewhere in between. And it's to do with how much elastin and collagen your connective tissues like your ligaments and your muscles and your tendons and things have. If you've got more elastin, you're more flexible. If you've got more collagen, you're less flexible. Now, if you're on the more flexible side of the spectrum, you may be able to get into those positions no problem. If you're on the other side of the spectrum, you may strain things if you try to get into those positions. Another thing is that our joints all have different sizes and shapes, and we know that for different parts of the population, things like the hip joint, the depth of the joint, or the orientation can even differ. So if you're doing it like the pigeon stretch and you're getting a really strong pinching sensation or a painful sensation in your groin, it's more likely that the joint surfaces are making contact in that position. And if you're going to continuously try and force that, you can actually injure your joint. Whereas if you're doing the pigeon pose and you're feeling a nice muscular stretch in your buttock, that's something that can become more flexible. So take note of your body. If it's a nice stretchy sensation, probably okay. If it's really uncomfortable and it feels like a pinch or pain, then it's probably not okay. So chat to your teacher and get them to adapt things for you. So that is my first tip, is focus on your body, kind of identify what it is that you're feeling and ease into things. But if it's a pinching or pain, probably not something you want to try and push through. Then secondly, you've got to adapt the poses if you've got certain medical conditions. Looking at the research for yoga injuries, there are certain things that stand out. So people with glaucoma, which is a condition where you've got higher pressure in your eyes, should really watch out for anything where they do poses where their heads are lower than the rest of their bodies. Because when your head is lower, blood rushes to your head, and that increases the pressure and the blood pressure in your eyes and everything even more. And it has been documented that people can actually increase their glaucoma and damage their eyes if they do things like shoulder stands, headstands, or downward dogs excessively. Then, if you've got bone density issues, so for instance you're osteoporotic or osteopenic, you've got to watch out that you don't do those positions where you flex forward extremely. Forward flexion is fine, but just not forcing the position, as well as extreme extension positions of the spine, where you really hyperextend the spine, because both of those have been indicated to actually cause spontaneous fractures of the bones in the back. Now, be careful. Don't just be frightened of those positions. Now, if you've got good bone strength and bone mineral density, you're absolutely fine, and that's most of the population. But if you're slightly older and you know that you've got bone density issues, then you want to avoid those positions. Doesn't mean no flexion, no extension. It just means don't push into those end positions. Then people with arthritis or any jointy type diseases where the joint surfaces aren't so pristine, those joints often don't do well if you overcompress them. So again, you've just got to adapt the positions. So the key to things where you've got previous injuries even, or you've got medical conditions, is you can still do yoga. You've just got to adapt the positions. And if you're not sure about how to do that, chat to a physiotherapist. That's tip number 2, is go and see a physio, because physios have an in-depth knowledge of all of these types of conditions. We've studied it at university, but we also understand exercise and we understand yoga. So we can give you guidelines as to what things to avoid. And then it's as easy as telling your teacher, and she or he can adapt things for you. So don't be frightened of it. It can still give you loads of benefit. Go and do it, but just adapt it. Then, thirdly, more is not better. So I don't know if you guys, if you're in the UK, you may have seen the article a while back on the BBC News website where a physio commented. He's a specialist physio who works with hips and things, and he sees about 5 yoga teachers a month who has hip injuries and labrum injuries, and it all comes from overuse and forcing positions that they shouldn't be in for that much and that often or that long. So yoga is exercise, even though all exercise is pretty good for you. But because it's exercise, you do get bits of micro damage and things, which is normal. That's what happens with exercise. And then after you stop the exercise session, your body repairs that and makes itself stronger. But now, if you keep on hammering it several times a day or day after day after day with high intensity yoga, going really deep into positions and not having easy days and harder days, you will overwork it and you'll get overuse injuries. So already mentioned, you can get labral strains and things like that, but you can also get a very common one that I've seen in the past is upper hamstring tendinopathy. So right where it attaches the hamstring to the sit bone. If you do a lot of deep hamstring stretches, that can cause that tendon to actually become injured, and that can become a chronic problem and be very painful to sit on. So be careful when you do yoga. Tip number 3 is think of it as exercise and don't just hammer it every day after day. Have days where you work harder and then other days where you do it more easily. Or maybe for some days focus on breathing techniques more and relaxation, and then other days are harder working days or more stretching days, so that you don't work the same system every time. Excellent. So let me know if you've got any questions, but in summary, it's not everybody's body is made to go into the typical yoga poses. Your genetics may actually stop you from doing that, and you will end up straining stuff if you force it too much. Second is, if you've got a pre-existing medical condition or previous injury, chat to a physio, get them to give you some adaptations that you can do in a yoga class. And thirdly, more is not better. So don't just force it every day. Have rest days or easy load days as well. If you need more help with an injury, let me know. You can always consult me via video call, and you can find the link of my website in this description of the video. But if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments and I'll get back to them as they come in. Take care.